Okay, good afternoon, ladies. We are now resuming the tefillah course after a couple of weeks of things happening. So I'm going back to teaching tefillah, but what I'm doing today is I'm introducing what's really going to take us to the end of the year. Because from now to the end of the year, I'm going to actually teach you how to daven a Shemona Esrei, the Rabbi Nissel way, which is really what my teacher, Rav Shlomo Wolbe, taught me to teach, which in turn was the way his teacher, Rav Dessler, taught him to teach. But before I get there, I want to first go back and go over the main points that we spoke about in the first half of the year. So those of you who are new here, we've got some new faces over here. So this is going to be a quick summary of the main points that we made. Basically, if I could summarize everything I said in half a year into two big ideas, it would be the following. I'm going to say it a little bit differently from the way I said it till now, and that is the following. What exactly is my definition of tefillah? How do you define the word prayer?
Talking to God.
Okay, shkayach. Shkayach. I'm glad we got that down pat. But who remembers what I taught you? Because if you think about it, talking to God, if you're talking to God and say, yo, what's up, God? So you're talking to God, but you have not prayed. And if you're saying a blessing, you're talking to God, and it's not prayer. And if you say the Shema, you're talking to God, and it's not prayer. And if you're saying songs of praise to God, you're talking to God, but you're not praying. So what is prayer? The point is as follows. Let me just give you my definition of tefillah. I'm going to give you my definition, and then I'm going to explain this a little bit, because it's very important that we understand it. My definition of prayer is the created, that's us, the created, standing in front of the creator, that's God, and saying, I cannot survive without you. I want you to remember this, at least as long as you're in my class. I cannot survive without you. Allow me just to elaborate just a little bit, but you have to remember when Hashem created the world, this is the first Rashi in Chumash, more or less the first Rashi. He says, B'tchila, in the beginning, when God created the world, He created the world with Midas Hadin. What does Midas Hadin mean? With the laws of judgment. And then Ra'a she'ena miskayemes, He saw that such a world cannot survive. The laws of din, the laws of strict justice cannot allow a world to survive. And then Amad v'shitef imo midas harachmim. So then God said, I'm going to bring in my midah, my attribute of mercy, and that's how the world survives. So you have step number one, din, strict judgment. Step number two, the world cannot survive. And step number three, God brings in what's called the world of rachamim. Uno, dos, tres, okay? Ein, zwei, drei. This is for Binyamin. Un, deux, trois. Okay, you got the three steps. The first step is called din. The second step is called the world cannot survive. And the third step is called rachamim. So for example, Adam opens up his eyes and he sees a world that is midas hadin. Rashi brings this down. He sees a world that is dark and gray, without colors, without the beautiful fruits and butterflies and all the things that make the world gorgeous. A world that cannot survive. He realizes that to survive, he needs rain. Rain means something from upstairs coming downstairs. He prays for rain, the rain comes down, and in a few seconds, the world turns into the Garden of Eden. But when he was created, that moment was a situation where the world cannot survive. It just cannot exist. It cannot move forward. So this is exactly how Hashem creates the world. People read that Rashi and they think that God messed up. He tried in, he saw it didn't work, and he brought in Rachim. No, this was a mahalach. This was a system that God wanted. He wanted to be 1, 2, 3, because he wanted there to be this in-between stage, which is where you and I find ourselves constantly. Our lives are constantly unstable. That's just the way it is. I don't even know you people. But if I knew each one, the ones that I do know, a little bit. So you look at your lives, Hashem makes your life crazy. At any given moment, your life is crazy. So there's different types of crazy. There's healthy crazy. You have to make decisions. You got to figure out how to make ends meet. Some of you have shidduchim, the whole thing, the dating, and how to find. Some of you, your crazy is, what am I doing for Shabbos, or where am I going for Seder night? This is probably the number one stress for a Nevei Gal. Okay, number one is always, how am I going to? It's basically your life revolves around Shabbos arrangements and food. Okay? Those are the two big things that fill your mind with stress. But any given moment, that's just the way it is. Hashem makes our lives crazy, and then we realize that the only way to solve that craziness is you take 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, you enter into what's called Hashem's worlds. There Hashem unleashes the Rachamim. When man turns to God in prayer, that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world. That's the way that we survive. So the moment of tefillah is the moment of that recognition that we cannot survive anything without him. So just to take it to the extreme, but really it's not extreme at all because it's the truth. You put food into your mouth, you just assume that everything's going to work out perfectly. So the proteins will go to your brain and the carbs end up on your hips. And and the waste will, after a day, whatever, will come out, or a couple of hours will come out, and you'll be healthy and everything's going to be good. But we know it's not that way. We know, as we say in our prayer, Ashiyatzar, that a tiny little aberration can cause incredible amounts of pain. And Hashem is constantly taking care of us and making sure everything is fine. And just to make an extreme point, just to make the idea, Rabbi Yerucham of the Mir, my Rebbe's Rebbe, Rosh Wolbe's Rebbe, once said if we understood the frailty of the human body, then we would instantly, every time we come to the bathroom, would write, in his words, write a telegram to our parents to say that we're okay. Don't do this. They'll think you're mad. But if you understand it, the body is so frail. We cross the road. We just assume we're going to get to the other side. But then every so often you read that, with crazy drivers, you don't know what's going to be. Some of you are from West Hempstead. We're davening for Rabbi Kalama, the awesome Rav of the community over there. He was hit by a car that ran away, and no one even knows the story behind it, but that's it. I have my Rebbe, Rabbi Greenblatt, Tzaddik L'Chon Roch, his wife was hit by a car while she was doing a Sunday morning walk. This is what happens. So you just assume you can cross the road. Statistically, what's the most dangerous part of a trip when you're going from Jerusalem to Los Angeles? I just did this like Menachem. What's the most, what?
When you're take off in the car. When you're
the Jerusalem-Tel Aviv highway, for sure. For sure. This is that, everyone's like worried about, if I was Trump, I wouldn't worry about terrorists. I would worry about, the roads. This is where nothing is stable. We don't know what is stable. Because Baruch Hu wants to remind us that our world is not stable, and then we take our 3 steps, and we recognize it's all him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take care of everything. He's constantly taking care of us. If we could open our eyes just a teeny bit more, we'll see that we're surrounded by angels. Every single one of us are being protected, and are being loved, and our lives are being shaped, but we don't see it. And we take our 3 steps, we stand up HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make my life normal. God willing, over the next couple of months, we're going to talk about me, myself, I, is not just my little ego and my little world, but we are obligated to think in terms of Klal Yisrael. And you think in terms of the Jewish people, so the world is really crazy. The world is really, I'm not going to get into it now, but as my Rabbi Moshe Shapiro used to like to say, we live in the Garden of Eden of fools. We always live in this thing, and people say, what are the big problems of this world? And we forget. I just read this morning, just put on the headlines, I saw that Hamas has now regained all their missile power. Hamas is like a teeny weeny compared to Hezbollah that has enough missiles that can take out every single house, God forbid, in Har Nof. You know what I mean? Exactly, has the guided missiles. They'll say, shall we send this to Naveh or to the Nissel home? And they can do that. You start to think about that, and then you ask Kadosh Baruch Hu to protect his people. So it's a different way of davening. And every so often, as my sister who lives in Lawrence says, every so often Hashem stops speaking to us in Hebrew and stops speaking to us in English, because Americans somehow think, America, it's the land of the free, it's protected. So every so often he'll send you a little reminder. It could be in Orlando, it could be in a freeway somewhere in Los Angeles or in Boston, just as some kind of, a communal event. And he'll remind us, everything's unstable. Nothing has to be the same tomorrow the way it is today. What do we have? We have the power of prayer. Hashem tells us, take your 3 steps, talk to me, I can fix anything. I'm actually God. I'm actually more powerful than Trump. Believe it or not, I'm more powerful than every world leader put together. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I'm Hashem. I see the beginning of time, the end of time. I can do whatever I want. All I'm asking you is to take those 3 steps. So that was the first big idea that we spoke about. And the second big idea that we spoke about, which is, in fact, more important, is why does Hashem do it this way? It's a pretty a pretty, once again, I'm using the word crazy. It sounds like I've been watching Disney movies. But I'm saying to you, it is a crazy way to run a universe. You start off with din, and then the whole thing is unstable, and then we have to take 3 steps and turn it into rachamim. Why does he do it that way? I'll give you a reminder. The Nissel writes in, I think it's Perek Yutes, he says there's only one way that you can taste the world to come here in this world. If you want a little bit of a taste of what it's going to be like. His definition of the world to come is le'nivra ha'adam ela lehis'aneg al Hashem, is the extreme pleasure of closeness to God. Just to back up, those who have never heard these ideas before, if you ask yourself, what is the things that you really, really enjoy in life? Again, just stepping back again. The reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world, because he wants us to constantly take 3 steps and talk to him. Why? So just a quick reminder how Hashem runs his worlds. If I ask you what's really, really pleasurable, so if you're brutally honest with yourself, if you think through it carefully, the things that give you real pleasure you can't buy with money. Is that right? It's a Beatles song. If you don't believe me, you can't buy. Love you cannot buy with money. You can't buy friendship with money. Those are the real things that are important. You can't feel the feeling that your life has value with money. All you can do is create relationships, and that's where you find the sweetness and the goodness in life. If you think about it, the people that you love and they love you back, that's what ahava, gematria echad, that's where you feel that you have connections to people, and those connections make your life meaningful. In the end of your days, so to quote Barbara Bush, when she spoke in Wellesley College, I think it was, which is an old ladies' college, it was one of these high-achieving colleges. When you reach my age, you look back at your life and you say, well, there wasn't that extra deal that you won or that extra position that you gained that made your life meaningful, but it's just an extra moment with a child or a grandchild, or the extra time that you spend with a loved one. That's the moments of meaning that you find in your life. This is wise words from this lady, very wise words, and it's always like that. So basically there are 2 things that feel really good. One is a friendship. One's a friend, especially if it's a special friendship like a marriage. And the other is the feeling that I did something for you of real value. That feeling is a godlike feeling. Yismach Hashem b'ma'asav. God is happy when he sees the success of his creations, and you feel that happiness when you see that you have had an impact on the people around you. That's not why you do it. You do it because it's the right thing to do. But when you've done it, you feel that special feeling inside. It's a godly feeling. Well, guess what? All of these is a taste of a taste of a taste of what it's going to be like at the end of days when we had the ultimate pleasure, where you and I together all have this relationship with Hashem. Says the Nissel Sharm, we can taste it now every time you take 3 steps. Translation, the beauty of life is the beauty of a relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It finds its natural expression in the world of prayer. So whenever you take 3 steps, you instantly feel that pleasure of being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you pour your heart out to him, and then you feel that he's close and he's listening to you. And that's the moment of intimacy, which is a taste of the world to come. It's interesting that the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda Levi in the Sefer Kuzari, says there's 2 places where you can taste the world to come. One is in prayer. Where's the other one? Shabbos. Yes. What? Shabbos. Shabbos. It's a beautiful thing, but I'm not going to explain it fully now. But Shabbos is in a way greater than prayer, because Shabbos is basically taking all those relationships that you love so much, but it's with Hashem. So if you think about Shabbos as food, it's got to be food. Friendship, right? Families, all the F's, okay? Fashion, for those of you who like to dress nice, but it's with Hashem. You take it with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in a sense, Shabbos is even greater than Tefillah, because Shabbos, it's step number 1, is a relation with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in prayer, it's step number 2. Step number 1 is you pour out your hearts. Step number 1, you cry to God because you feel that your life is unstable, and he's the only one that can fix it. But step number 2 is having felt that you have an address to talk to and that he's listening and he will do what's best for you. That moment is that secondary moment. That's that high of that feeling of closeness, which is a taste of the world to come. So the bottom line is that the world is unstable, and Hashem gives us this challenge to fix our lives, and ultimately, as we're going to talk about later on this year, to fix the world, which is the great goal of humanity, to fix the world in its entirety, to make this world into the world of Hashem Echad. So all these challenges that we constantly have, but in the end, it's really, really ultimately so that we can get close to Him, which is the goal of all goals. This Anik al Hashem, to become close to Hashem. It finds its natural habitat in the world of Tefillah. Everyone's with me? Any questions at this point? Everything I've said till now, it's just basic going over the last half of the year. It's just two simple, powerful ideas. Comprende? Señorita, is good? Okay.